church wall paintings help to give us a clear picture of life in the Middle Ages. Noblemen and their ladies, peasants, princes, craftsmen, dancing, dining, in the fields, going about their daily work. At the medieval centre, you can journey back to the time in which they lived. Stylized wall paintings present a picture of the Middle Ages that perhaps seems crude, dark and primitive. 600 years later, it's difficult to imagine what life was really like then. Medieval society had a strict hierarchy. Prince and pauper, peasant and duke lived side by side, but they were divided by rigid social barriers. A lot of the work was physically hard, but help was available for the most demanding tasks in the shape of surprisingly complicated mechanical devices. For example, treadmills delivered power to cranes, which were used to build houses and other structures. House building was an occupation for experienced, highly skilled craftsmen, just as it is today. Timber was the main construction material. Houses were either made wholly of wood or had timber frames. Large sections were prefabricated. Roofs were usually of thatch, tiles or wooden shingles. In some districts, seaweed was used instead. There were many craftsmen, people who made their living as specialists in particular products. Their goods were sold directly from the workshop, from booths, or in local markets. The craftsmen at the medieval centre have learned the skills of their ancestors. They make things as they were produced in the Middle Ages. One of the important craftsmen was the rope maker, whose products had many uses. Medieval rope was made of bark fibre, flax, hair or hemp. One of its most important applications was in shipbuilding. Shipbuilding and seafaring were central elements in medieval life. Ships were made of wood, shaped with hand tools. In the Middle Ages, land transport was slow and dangerous. The sea provided an easier and faster means of travel. The great importance of ships can easily be deduced from medieval wall paintings and illuminations. The themes are often biblical or mythical, but the ships are medieval. Underwater archaeological finds are an important source of information for reconstructions, and contemporary pictures provide excellent guidance on these vessels' overall appearance, including their sails and rigging. The medieval centre has built several copies of these ships, including one of a 14th century trading vessel found at Gelsbu, near Nykøbing Falster. There was close collaboration in its reconstruction with the Experimental Centre for Maritime Archaeology at Roskilde. In test sailings, the ship has proved very seaworthy and easy to handle, and it has a large cargo capacity. It combines the experience gleaned from centuries of Viking shipbuilding with medieval innovations. Its design is transitional between the Viking longboat and the broad-beamed Hanseatic cog. The reconstruction has been named Agnete, after an old Danish song. It's possibly the best and most accurate copy of a medieval vessel yet made.
skyde! Gør klar til at stavvende.
Ships like Oneta maintained communications with far-off parts of the kingdom, such as the Baltic states, which were then part of Denmark. The Baltic was a busy sea, heavily trafficked with Danish, Swedish and German vessels. Strong central government was needed to keep the wheels of commerce turning. And strength in the Middle Ages was synonymous with military power. The feudal society of the Middle Ages was almost entirely based on military principles. In return for their role as protectors, the nobility enjoyed many privileges. Sword in hand, was to protect the peasantry from evildoers and foreign invasion. In theory. But theory is one thing, practice often quite another. Frequently the knight would forget his duties while clearly remembering his privileges. But trust was not put in soldiers alone. Gigantic siege engines like the trebuchet were built to bombard castles and fortified towns. No medieval trebuchets have survived to modern times. Reconstructions therefore have to be based on thorough analysis of the source material. Detailed test models were built before construction of the full-sized engines. The ammunition was usually large round stones, but burning tar, decaying animal carcasses, even beehives were also used. The power of the trebuchet was delivered by a large counterweight box filled with stones. Treadmills were often used to wind back the engines. But it should not be thought that the Middle Ages consisted entirely of war and violence. For ordinary people, life was comparatively peaceful. They simply went about their daily lives. If they weren't directly involved, political events and wars probably seemed as distant and irrelevant as wars in far-flung corners of the globe do today. What were the thoughts of these people of long ago? What can it have been like to live in a world in which hell was perceived as a concrete, ever-present threat? We can never know for sure, but it's certain that, just like us, they had their joys and sorrows, that they had a lust for life, that they worked very hard for their daily bread. The mission of the Medieval Centre is to tell their story.